The IISS Asia Security Summit. The Shangri La Dialogue is a Track 1 intergovernmental security forum held annually by an independent think tank, the International Institute for Strategic Studies, which is attended by defense ministers, permanent heads of ministries and military chiefs of 28 Asia-Pacific states. The forum gets its name from the Shangri-La Hotel in Singapore, where it has been held since 2002. The summit serves to cultivate a sense of community among the most important policymakers in the defense and security community in the region. Government delegations have made the best out of the meeting by holding bilateral meetings with other delegations on the sidelines of the conference. While primarily an intergovernmental meeting, the summit is also attended by legislators, academic experts, distinguished journalists and business delegates. The participants have included Australia, Brunei, Cambodia, Canada, Chile, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Japan, Laos, Malaysia, Mongolia, Myanmar, New Zealand, Pakistan, Philippines, Russia, South Korea, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Sweden, Thailand, East Timor, United Kingdom, United States and Vietnam. Prior to the first summit, Asia lacked a regional security framework like Europe. Earlier in 1996, U.S. Defense Secretary William Perry and Thai Defense Minister Chawali Yongchayud each proposed separate initiatives to gather their counterparts in Asia but came to nothing. The only Track 1 multilateral Asian Security Forum was the ASEAN Regional Forum, which was found to be unwieldy since it focused on confidence building and at worst, little more than a talk shop. In addition, the ARF was led by foreign ministers, leaving defense diplomacy and security cooperation in the region somewhat in want for a mechanism for defense ministers to interact. The Shangri-La Dialogue was conceived by the current IISS Director General and Chief Executive Sir John Chipman in 2001 in response to the clear need for a forum where the Asia-Pacific defense ministers could engage in dialogue aimed at building confidence and fostering practical security cooperation. During the 36th Munich Conference on Security Policy, Chipman noticed Asian officials receiving short shrift and realized that Asia needed its own defense institution at which defense ministers met and spoke. Initially, the SLD was modeled after the Munich Conference on Security Policy but with greater ambition to create a Track 1 organization that defense ministers needed if they were to have any chance at all of meeting multilaterally in a transregional format. Invitations were essentially focused on the members of the ASEAN Regional Forum in order to serve as a true regional security institution. Singapore was chosen as the location for the initial conference and with the Shangri-La Hotel as the venue. Chipman approached Singapore President S.R. Nathan in February 2001 to propose the idea, and Nathan offered to provide IDSS support until the IISS could run the conference independently. The idea was brought forward to the Singapore cabinet and was approved to be supported by the Ministry of Defense. Initiated in 2002, it was an unofficial defense summit, which allowed defense officials to meet privately and in confidence, bilaterally and multilaterally, without the obligation to produce a formal statement or communique. About a dozen deputy ministers and ministerial representatives attended the inaugural summit, including a U.S. delegation led by U.S. Deputy Defense Secretary Paul Wolfowitz. The first summit was organized in 6 plenary sessions lasting for 1.5 days. In 2003, the second summit expanded its invitation list to include chiefs of defense staff and permanent or undersecretaries of defense ministries. The agenda this year was organized around 5 plenary sessions supplemented by 2 simultaneous off-the-record breakout groups. In 2004, the invitation list was again further expanded to include participating countries' most senior intelligence and the police and national security officials of some countries. The number of breakout groups was increased to 3. The IISS Asia office was opened this year, which allowed IISS to organize the summit completely independently. In 2005, Pakistan was represented for the first time. In 2006, The number of delegations had risen to 23 countries, with 17 being led by their respective defense ministers, and another 3 by deputy defense ministers or equivalent. The 2007 iteration of the Shangri La Dialogue was a landmark meeting as it attracted top-level participation from China. The Deputy Chief of the General Staff of the People's Liberation Army Lieutenant General Zhang Kansheng led Beijing's delegation that year. Subsequently, in 2008, Vietnam and Myanmar elevated their representation to deputy minister level. Then in 2009, Vietnam was represented at full ministerial status with General Phung Quang Thanh leading its delegation. In